Hi, it's Dwyer. It's January 3rd, 2025. GamblersAdvisory.com, a free site. Also, keepingitfree.blogspot.com, a free site. Nothing I say in this video should be construed as investment advice. I'm simply sharing with you what I think, what I am considering, or what I am actually pursuing. I want everyone here to do their own due diligence. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now, there's been a lot of volatility, and there will continue to be a lot of volatility in digital assets, including Bitcoin. Now, that has led to a lot of misinformation. It's staggering how much misinformation is out there. You have market observers, many of them from traditional finance backgrounds, comparing Bitcoin, which can be used as money, right, with tulips. They talk about the tulip mania. They talk about how unsustainable that was. Google the tulip mania, right? They talk about how tulips didn't have utility. The public sentiment got ahead of itself. And of course, tulips ultimately imploded, right? They went from being the must-have item, subject to a lot of public enthusiasm, to, of course, one of history's biggest bubbles. Somehow, these pundits think that that's analogous to Bitcoin. Let me make a few points. Folks, tulips have no intrinsic value apart from, beauty and uniqueness. That's it, right? Understand that with Bitcoin, you can use Bitcoin as a method of payment. I can't have a bunch of tulips in my pocket as I go grocery shopping. I can have a biometrically protected Bitcoin wallet in my phone as I go shopping, and if the vendor accepts Bitcoin, I can quickly check out. After I buy groceries, I can pay for those groceries. The utility isn't close in terms of tulips and Bitcoin. There's no real analogy. Someone trying to draw an analogy between a tulip bubble and a Bitcoin bubble is completely overlooking the utility and necessity of money in everyday life. Well, let's also talk about the asymmetrical possibilities that exist out there right now for Bitcoin in particular. Right, folks, understand, the minute a major economy decides to have a Bitcoin reserve, and I believe we're less than 2 years away from that, Bitcoin is going to go vertical. If you're a Bitcoin holder, your Bitcoin is much more valuable, given that it's a limited supply already. It's much more valuable. The minute, let's say, the United States of America decides that it's going to have a Bitcoin reserve of even just a few $100 million, right? Why would a country, of course, have a Bitcoin reserve? It's because Bitcoin retains value better than fiat currency, right? It's because gold is hard to get and expensive to put in a vault. Understand the domino effect that could have. If the United States decides to have a Bitcoin reserve, and UAE already does, in other words, Some countries are already with their toes in the water. Then one could easily envision allies who have their own liquidity problems. The United Kingdom, NATO countries, Singapore, Japan, Russia, China, Brazil, some BRIC countries. You can imagine country after country adopting a Bitcoin reserve just to stay internationally competitive. Folks, there was never a tulip reserve. Tulips have a limited shelf life. They're not perfect loan collateral like Bitcoin. They require upkeep Bitcoin doesn't require. Let me go one step further. There are better digital assets than Bitcoin out there, right? I have a Substack page, Dwyer, 70905.substack.com, where I talk about altcoins, right? Truth be told, I'm more bullish on DeFi. Whether you think the backbone of DeFi is going to be Ethereum, Solana, Sui, I'm more bullish on DeFi long term than I am Bitcoin. But understand, Bitcoin is unique among digital assets, in part because it has first mover status, right? We all know Bitcoin. We might not know Caspa and some other more advanced digital assets. Understand too, there's a problem with most altcoins. They are proof of stake. In other words, they're more centralized inherently than proof of work digital assets. So if I'm a government, I don't want a centralized cryptocurrency as a reserve currency. Why? Because if Solana is centralized enough to actually have a phone, if Ethereum is centralized enough where people know who the founder is, Vitalik Buterin, and he's still alive, right? I don't want that challenge to my authority. I prefer a proof of work setup where no one really knows the gender of Satoshi Nakamoto. In any event, there are other holders of Bitcoin who have more Bitcoin than Satoshi Nakamoto. I want a mining community. I want decentralization. So I can have Bitcoin as a reserve currency, and there's no impresario who can step out of the background, who created Bitcoin, who can challenge my authority, who can do things like, make decisions to take the cryptocurrency offline for a period of time, as they've done with Solana. Let me point out too, I know I'm being critical of some cryptos. Just understand I own some Ethereum, I own some Solana. I'm bullish on both. I hope they succeed. But they're ill-suited to be a country's reserve currency, right? Bitcoin, by contrast, is well-suited. So Bitcoin has certain advantages over other digital assets. And certainly, Bitcoin has much better use cases and advantages over Tulips. So I need for folks to understand that as you're sitting at a Christmas table with relatives and they're telling you how Bitcoin is a bubble and they're, comparing it to Tulips, right? There's an asymmetrical set of possibilities involving Bitcoin that, if they hit, can make Bitcoin holders much richer than they are today. Right? The U.S. government right now has a lot of Bitcoin that's been seized from various wrongdoers, right? Just understand it would not take much for Donald Trump, when he becomes president a second time, to announce that that Bitcoin, which the government already has, is part of a Bitcoin reserve that the United States plans to grow. Any such announcement would jump your Bitcoin tremendously. Understand, you have speculators out there who are keeping track of these asymmetrical opportunities, right? Some of the price of Bitcoin today, no doubt, is based on people theorizing that Bitcoin could be adopted as a reserve currency by the United States and several other countries. Now let's talk about other things that need to be talked about, because some of the arguments out there are hopelessly dated. You have a group, we'll call them Bitcoin maximalists, who believe that Bitcoin is going to be the only thing left standing. What I want, hold on one second. I'm going to have to pause this video.